Former Iowa receiver Jacob Bostick commits to the Texas A&M Aggies. Is he the solution the Aggies have been looking for in the portal?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, former Iowa receiver Jacob Bostick commits to the Aggies yesterday. Now, this is a really interesting addition because you look at it and you go, what do we got here? You know, this is not going to be a guy where I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes and tell you how awesome he's going to be, because we do not know. We don't. He didn't have a single reception during his time at Iowa, a couple years there. And listen, I'm not knocking this edition. I keep going back and forth on this edition. So my honest opinion on this edition, I think this adds depth, which you were looking for at the receiver position. Now the question becomes, is he a legit dude? Where is he in the depth chart? Can he help this team, or is he just another body in the wide receiver room? So, before we get into Bostick, more as a player, we'll talk about, why are we where we are when it comes to wide receiver? Well, Jabre Barber goes down with that injury. He was expected to be a really good player for this Texas A&M receiving room. Former Troy receiver, almost had 1,000 yards last year. He had 999 yards, which is hilarious that he was that close. But he goes down with an injury, and it looks like we're either not going to see him for a long time or at all this season. And now you go, okay. At first, we feel good about the receiver room. I love Noah Thomas, love Jabre, Jaday Walker. I about said Jabre. I was mixing Jabre Barber and Jaday Walker's names in my head, and I was about to say Jabre Walker or Jaday Barber. That's funny. But love Jaday Walker, love Moose Muhammad. We know what we got in those guys, I think. Now, we don't know if one of them can be the guy. I think we know that Noah Thomas, Jaday Walker, and Moose Muhammad can all be really good receivers for the Aggies. One of them needs to be the guy, but that's not the conversation we're having right now. Then you've got Micah Tease, you've got Cyrus Allen, and you've got some of these freshmen. Terry Bussey's going to be here eventually to play corner and perhaps a little bit of receiver. So you've got some question marks for the young guys. We don't know what you got in Micah Tease yet because we haven't really seen him much. We don't know what you got in Cyrus Allen. You've seen more of him in college, but what point here is you got 5 guys right there that can play the position, but we aren't sure what they're going to do. So I'll be honest with you. Here's my problem with this edition, and it's not a problem. Here's the deal. If you have a room to add players, add them. I'm not ever going to be upset about it. I've said that time and time again. But my thought is this. They added that tight end the other day, and I said, this is weird. We feel really good about the tight end room. Why this edition? This is a weird edition. I'm never going to complain, but you kind of wonder. I'd like to know the why. And, it's funny. We had the same conversation about Jalen Henderson when he committed last year, and that ended up being a good decision. But so this is an addition to me, a kid who played at Iowa. Receivers at Iowa, and it's not Bostick's fault. They just aren't used. Iowa's offense is not good. It's just how that team is. They aren't very good. So receivers from Iowa, I have concerns with training and development and what have they learned during his few seasons playing with the Hawkeyes. Those are my concerns for Bostick. So Texas A&M really needed another receiver. And the question now becomes, is Bostick that answer? Is he the answer at receiver that we have been discussing for weeks here at Locked On Aggies? As you everydayers know, hey, we need a receiver. Now that Jabre Barber is down with an injury, we need to go get a guy. Is Bostick the answer? And listen, once again, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes. I'm saying we don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I trust this coaching staff to continue to make good decisions. They've done a great job in the portal to this point, and I don't believe that's going to stop anytime soon. But I mean, just the more I think about this, the more I kind of go to myself, I hope this kid ends up being good because, I mean, you're a couple injuries away from him potentially needing to be out there. So let's talk about Bostick a little bit as a player. 6'2", 183-pound receiver, long, lanky kid, athletic. Out of high school, I was on a 24/7 Sports recruiting page. Out of high school, he was compared to Josh Reynolds. I think some Texas A&M fans might know that name. Of course, former Aggie receiver. Compared to Josh Reynolds, he did have an offer from Ole Miss in the portal. So listen, it wasn't like it was Texas A&M and random schools. I was trying to think of a good joke analogy and couldn't find anything. But so had an Ole Miss offer, had a couple legit offers. I believe he had a Houston offer, Vandy offer. There's a few schools there. And I know the Vandy offer thing just sent people into oh no, I'm kidding. But so watching this high school film, and I watched a little bit of college film too. I mean, he's a good football player. He's a good football player, but we haven't seen him do it on the field yet. He's going, and then I've talked about my concerns with what kind of development has he received as a receiver at Iowa. I'm not saying, hey, we don't worry about the receiver position at Iowa. Now, obviously, they work on it. I mean, I'm not just saying they're like, whatever. But I think he needs some better training. I think he needs some better, drills and workouts and programs and to get him right. So, once again, this all wraps up into this one simple point. I think Bostick is a solid football player. I think he's a good addition to this football team. But is he a good enough addition to where you go, okay, we feel great about the receiver room now? And I already see the comments. People, it's funny. When you do what I do for a living, you talk and you portray yourself in a way, and then people come. So people always say that I'm being negative about things. And I'm like, I don't think I'm being negative about this, but this is going to sound negative. So I'm just going to brace everybody for this. So I don't, and I'm happy to be wrong. I love to be wrong because if I'm wrong, that means that he works out. But I don't think this is your answer at receiver. I think you needed to go get a legit dude with some experience who can help because you're going to be really young and really thin. And I mean, no disrespect to Bostick, I think he's a high upside play. I think he could be a legit dude at some point. But I'm just saying for the right here and the right now, is this the answer? And I'm leaning no, and that's once again no disrespect to him as a player. I don't have any concerns for him when it comes to maybe sticking around and having a good career. It just can he fill that hole that you have right now? So once again, I do like this addition. I would love for this coaching staff to develop him and to see what he can become. I saw the high school tape. I saw some of the college tape. It's all in there. This dude can play football. He's a great player. It's an upside play. It's one of those. You bring in a player, and there was a player like this in the portal last year, and I don't forget who it was. I don't think he's on the roster anymore, but it's like you go get somebody and you go, hey, what the heck? Worst that can happen is he's an extra guy on the roster, help on special teams, whatever. Jacob Bostick is not a bad football player. He's not. I've seen the tape. He's not a bad football player. He can help this team. That's in some capacity at some point during his time at Texas A&M. So it's a fine addition, but I don't think it was the type of addition I was expecting at the receiver position. So one thing this could mean is, hey, maybe the coaching staff feels a little bit better about the receiver position than I had thought. But what would tell me that isn't true is them going after that Lambert Smith kid from Penn State who ended up going to Auburn. That kid, if you really felt like we need a guy, they should have pushed harder after him. So I don't know, or a guy who's played and can come in and play right now. So this is an interesting addition. happy to have Jacob Bostick, good football player, great addition to this roster. Really curious to see how they can develop him and what he's going to do during his time at Texas A&M. So can't wait to see this kid in uniform and see, hey, what can he do? Okay. We're going to have a conversation. Should I be, and I'm going to let y'all try and convince me in the comments if I should be, should I be more concerned with Texas A&M's games against South Carolina, Arkansas, and Mississippi State? That's going to be the conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I have got to tell you about our friends over at Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. So, these are the 3 football games that, I'll be honest with you, I think I'd even use the word maybe I've written off. And I was sitting, South Carolina just named their starting quarterback. I forget his name, but he's a good player. And, and that can make me think, should I be more concerned with these games? Because, of course, Mississippi State game and the South Carolina game are both true road games. The matchup with Arkansas is going to be, for one more year, a neutral site game. And looking at this, I guess what's flowing through my head is, am I underestimating these football teams? Am I underestimating these venues? And, I don't really think I am. And so what I want this to be, I'm going to give my thoughts, and then I want y'all in the comments, maybe if you're more concerned about any of these 3 football games than I am, let me know in the comments why, and convince me why. So when it goes to Arkansas, they lost a lot in the portal. I know they went and got some stuff in the portal. I'm pretty sure, was it Arkansas that just went and got the receiver that was an MLB player? Maybe, but that we've gotten to that point. And I think that Sam Pittman is going to be gone this year. Now, if you want to talk about upside for that team, Bobby Petrino. I was a huge Bobby Petrino fan. Just all y'all everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know I loved Bobby P. I thought he was going to be a great coach at Texas A&M. We knew what he was as an offensive coordinator. I don't think Jimbo Fisher let him do what he could do. I think that, and it's funny because that was the number one offseason conversation here at Locked On Aggies. You're everywhere, in reference to Texas A&M football was, is it going to be Bobby Petrino's offense or is it going to be Coach Fisher putting his hands all over Bobby Petrino's defense? And that's what it ended up being. I think Bobby Petrino, when he's the shot caller on the offense, we know what he can do. We've seen what he can do. So that's definitely a concern, but I don't know if they have the personnel. I just think this is one of those, I chop it down. It's pretty plain and simple. I think Texas A&M is the better football team. Then with South Carolina, this one is a little more interesting. I go back and forth on if I think that Shane Beamer is going to be a good coach or not. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, he's going to be a good coach. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not really sure. I'm not sold on it. And I guess right now I'm back to the no. The no, I don't think Coach Beamer is going to be great. I think he'll get you 7 wins every year. Maybe he'll get you 8 one year, and somewhere out of nowhere he'll have a great. But I just don't. I don't see it with Coach Beamer. And now I don't think he's going to get fired after the season, but I just don't. I'm starting to lose belief in him, his upside as a coach. And maybe I'm crazy, but they've recruited better and better, and they're doing things well. I just don't know if I see it happening. And going to play them, listen, Sandstorm, it's a real thing. I don't like having to play down there in Columbia. It's a good atmosphere. It's not a great atmosphere. It's a good atmosphere. But Sandstorm is awesome. I think it's another great college football tradition. We talked about that kind of stuff yesterday. We're talking about the Longhorns. And I said, hey, it's what makes college football great. Stuff like Sandstorm is what makes college football great. So not the easiest place to play, but once again, I think that the Aggies just have a better football team than South Carolina. I don't think they're going to have any issue. Now, in this range, I do not feel this way about Arkansas, knowing it's a neutral site game. But for both Mississippi State and South Carolina, while I think the Aggies win those games, I'm not going to sit here and act like I think they're going to win these games 49-7. Like, it's not. I think it's going to be your 28-20s, your 35-21s, couple touchdowns, 7 points. Winning a road football game, even when you're the better team by a wide margin, is not an easy thing to do. So that is kind of my take there. But in the Mississippi State, this new coach, I can't get a read on him. I think that Coach Elko has lapped him in what Coach Elko's done compared to what I think his name is Levy, right? What he's done. Coach Elko's lapped him, in my opinion. And I don't think it's even relatively close. But I think that he's a good X's and O's guy. I think, could he build something over time? Could he develop something over time? To me, that answer is a yes. So I'm just not concerned about these football games. I mean, they're on the road, and winning road games in the SEC is never an easy thing to do. We all know that. Just a fact. But I'm not as concerned about these football games, I think, as some others. So that's my thought there. Those are the three games that I've and then obviously you've got the non-conference games, the Notre Dame game. Not really going to spend any time on those ball games. But, those are the things. Let me know in the YouTube comments, should I be more concerned about either of those three football games? And then answer me this. This would be a fun question. If there's one of those three games, Arkansas, South Carolina, or Mississippi State, that I should be concerned about, which one should it be? Tell me that as well in the YouTube comments. Little thing I want to talk about. This is interesting. Connor Wigman's Heisman odds are at plus 2,200. And so you might go, well, where does that, is that good in comparison? Is that bad? Where is he? Is he top 50? Well, let's just say this. On FanDuel Sportsbook, who we're getting ready to talk about just here in a second, our friends over at FanDuel, Connor Wigman has the 10th best odds to win the Heisman Trophy. Carson Beck of Georgia is number 1. Quinn Ewers of Texas is number 2. Dylan Gabriel is number 3. Will Howard is number 4. Nico is from Tennessee is number 5. Jalen Milroe is number 6. Jackson Dart is number 7. Grant Nussmeier from LSU is number 8. And then Riley Leonard, Coach Elko's former quarterback during his time at Duke, is number 9. And, of course, where is he now? At Notre Dame. So the Aggies are going to get, it'll be a fun matchup, a fun game. It'll be fun to see Coach Elko versus his old quarterback, a little narrative on that football game. Going to be fun. And then Connor Wigman is after Riley Leonard. He is tied with Cameron Ward. So, this to me is really interesting because I think it tells you what I've been saying for a long time, and that is Connor Wigman is a legit quarterback. I think that he's got the offensive coordinator, which that's who we're getting ready to talk about here in a minute, is Collin Klein. I think he's got the offensive coordinator. I think he's got the coach that's going to let him do it. I think he's got solid weapons. I think the offensive line is going to be either as, the same as last year or a little bit better. I think he's got everything he needs there to be really good. Now, I know you lost Aniyah Smith and Evan Stewart, and that is not a good thing. But I still think that he has good enough weapons to have a really good season. And yes, I do think that could turn Connor Wigman into an NFL draft pick in the upcoming 25 draft. So, interesting Heisman odds for Connor Wigman. If you think he's going to win it, now's your time to go get it. So, I've said this for a long time. Could Collin Klein maybe be one and done here at Texas A&M? Saturday Down South seems to think there's a chance. We'll talk about what that means coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So, lots to bet on right now. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, baseball is still going. You know, I've gotten really into the NBA parlays. They're a ton of fun. I love doing them. I go over to my buddy's house and we'll sit down before the game. We'll make a parlay. My advice, don't make parlays. Only do straight bets. I've always said that. But hey, live dangerous, live fun, baby. I love doing the NBA parlays with my buddy. We have a great time doing it, watching the ball games. It just makes watching basketball, watching football, watching whatever sport more fun. You got to go check out FanDuel Sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So, interesting article from our guy, Connor O'Gara, over at Saturday Down South. We were talking about him the other day, not as positively. We agree with him this time, so it's a positive conversation. He made a list of 5 SEC assistants who could be FBS head coaches at this time next year, and then he gives possible destinations. So, Collin Klein was listed as number 5 on this list. So let's read this little blurb. After he led Kansas State to a top 5 offense in post-Deuce Vaughn world, Klein was one of the best assistant hires of the offseason. Mike Elko got Klein to leave his alma mater to run an A&M offense that's loaded with potential, most notably a quarterback with a healthy Connor Wigman. If Klein can turn Wigman into one of the nation's top quarterbacks, something that's very much on the table based on his limited sample size, he'll have head coaching opportunities. You don't leave your alma mater for the same position if that's not a goal. I agree with that statement. Klein would be an interesting target if Baylor parted ways with Dave Arnada or if Lance Leopold got another job and Kansas opened up. Alternatively, if G.J. Kinney gets a bigger job and there's a vacancy at Texas State, that would be an interesting fit for Klein to get his head coaching career started. So I've said it many times here on this show. Collin Klein is an elite coach. He really is. I mean, there's no debate to it. It's not a questionable thing. He is an elite offensive mind, and he is going to be a head coach very soon. So I think it's Texas A&M fans. And listen, the one and done thing would surprise me a little bit. But, O'Gara makes a great point here. If he takes Connor Wigman and develops him into a first-round draft pick, yeah, if I'm one of those schools, Baylor, Kansas, Texas State, I'd love to have Collin Klein as my next head football coach. So I don't think, if I was a betting man, I don't believe he's going to go one and done. I don't. But if Texas A&M's offense is unreal, just off the charts, sure, I think there's a world where that happens. So, and it's interesting, you can't be like, well, we're rooting against Texas A&M because we want Collin Klein to stick around. We want the offense to do bad. No, you don't want that. You want the offense to be good. You want this team to be good. But yeah, if this offense is like top 15 in college football and he takes Connor Wigman to the moon and he develops these receivers and all this happens, then there's definitely going to be the chance that he leaves for a head coaching job somewhere. I thought it'd be more like 3-4 years down the road, but yeah, I mean, if he's this good, this quick, it could be sooner than later. So Collin Klein, elite coach, and it's scary to see it. I've said it here on Locked On Aggies, but it's scary to see it written on paper, here in this article from Saturday Down South saying, listen, if Coach Klein has a good season as the offensive coordinator for the Aggies, he really could make the move and get his first head coaching job. And it's a great point. You don't leave your alma mater if that isn't the goal. So I'm fully in agreement with him in that. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. I really appreciate y'all tuning in every single day. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It helps the show a ton. If you're listening on a podcast platform, leave a 5-star review. Another thing that can really help me out and help the show. Would appreciate y'all doing all of those things. I hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Thursday. It is almost Friday. We are almost there, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.